All right, guys, today we're going to go back over those active reading strategies that we've been practicing in class. So I've pulled out my article again, and I have kind of gone over with you in class this first paragraph that we all did together. But if you haven't, I'm going to go through it one more time just in case you were absent or you missed it. And you're just going to follow along with me and make sure that we have kind of the same thinking going on. So I would read the article first. So I'm going to read each sentence and stop at the end. That's your task number one. So read each sentence, stop at the end, and then find any important information that you might need. So it says, last December, 7th grader Shabaham Bandry asked his parents how blind people read. And I said we were going to underline how blind people read because this gives us information about what started or sparked his interest. His dad told him to Google it, so we've underlined Google it just because we want to know, that was what really piqued his interest was that his dad kind of gave him the challenge to Google it. So Shabaham did. With a few internet searches, he also learned about Braille. You can see I have Braille circled and I put a star by it because this is our vocabulary word that we're going to need to include in our writing. So the next part of it is the writing system used by the blind. It explains or gives the definition of Braille. So I underlined that definition. Now you'll see in the next sentence, Braille is printed with raised dots on paper, which blind people can read with their fingers. I circled Braille again because remember that's our vocabulary term. Is printed with raised dots on paper so that I know exactly what that is. And then which blind people can read. I don't really need which blind people can. I need to underline read with their fingers because I already know it's up here. I already underlined blind, so I know that that's what they're going to do. It's kind of repeated information. He also learned about Braille printers, which to the middle schooler's shock cost thousands of dollars. So Braille printers is very important because we know as we look ahead, that's going to be what his invention is. And then he was shocked, which is part of the problem, that it cost thousands of dollars. So the next step is you're going to go through the next section and you are going to pause the video here and you're going to go through, let's see what we can build. And you're going to do active reading through the next 4 paragraphs here. And then you're going to press play and then we'll do this together. Okay, so go ahead and start your active reading in this passage or this section, excuse me. And then you're going to go back with me and we'll look at it again and see if we had the same matching answers. All right, guys, so the next section is the let's see what we can build. So I'm going to start there and see if you got the same answers that I did or same important pieces. So using pieces from a Lego set, Shabaham created a cheap Braille printer for his school science fair. Now I know normally we might underline that whole sentence, but I'm going to try and find just the important pieces. So he used pieces from a Lego set to create a cheap Braille printer. Now I know it's, he created it for a science fair project, but not so much the important information that I need. Today, Shabaham is the founder of a company, Braille Labs. And so I think a founder of a company, and then that Braille Labs is definitely important because that's the name of the company. It aims to be the first manufacturer of a low-cost portable Braille printers. The important piece, first manufacturer. Okay, and then we know this is most important, low-cost portable Braille printers. It was curiosity, explained Shabaham, now 13 and an 8th grader at Champion School in San Jose, California. So I know that curiosities probably might be a good thing to underline. Now, do I need the rest of it? His name, no. 13, no. An 8th grader at Champion School in San Jose, California, not necessarily. I know that he's a middle schooler and I don't have to be specific, although it's kind of nice information to know, but not something I might put in my writing. I'm always thinking up something. Okay, so we know he's an active thinker, so I'm going to put thinking up some things. That might be good to use as a connection. If you think it can be done, then it can probably be done. I know that he's probably pretty creative, and I know that he's acting pretty determined. So that might be words I put to the side. So I might put the word determined because that's going to be a character trait that I see. And I know that he is going to be a pretty creative thinker. So I'm going to put creative there just so I know that those are some side notes that I could use for my writing. I might use those as character traits to describe it. Because of his printer, Shabaham has been invited to the White House and received many awards. And I know many of you in class really thought that was really important. However, knowing that this happened and he might have been invited to the White House and received many awards, I don't know that I might use that in mine. I might use it in my introduction or my conclusion, but not necessarily in my body paragraphs. But we'll talk about that a little later. He has become the world's youngest owner of a tech startup company to receive venture capital funding. So I'm going to go youngest owner of a tech startup company, and he received venture capital funding. And I know that this venture capital funding is going to be defined in the next sentence. It is money given to a new technology companies to get them started. So I know that that's probably going to be pretty important as a definition. So make sure that might be the only line that I really kind of get to know that, that's most important information. The money came from Intel. I might need that. One of the world's largest makers of computer chips. So Intel, okay, and they make, they're the world's largest, and they make computer chips. On Tuesday, it announced that it was investing in Shabaham's company. I'm not sure that's really valuable information that I'm going to need. And it doesn't really matter how much they're investing. It's really free money. So, not going to be specific about whether it's a lot or a little. Now, I hope that you have some of the same marks that I do. If you don't, then make sure that your active reading strategies include thinking through what is the most important information. All right, you're going to pause the video here, and you're going to go ahead and go into a growing family business and make sure that you go over this section and then do the important information, and I will then come back and we'll kind of go through it together. All right? All right, guys, we're going to go through a growing family business. So what I did is we're going to go ahead and keep reading. Brogo has become a famous business. His mom, Malini Banjari, is the president. His dad, Neil Banerjee, who works for Intel, is on the company's board of directors. Now, I'm going to tell you, I might include family business. I know that it has become a family business. I might circle mom and dad. Now, there are roles, maybe, but I don't really know. I just know that mom and dad are helping out with the family business. Doesn't include any brothers or sisters, so I'm not sure that's the most important information as far as being the president or, on the company's board of directors, but I might be able to use that later. It says he also drives Shabaham, meaning dad, also drives Shabaham around and accompanies him to press events, interviews, and business meetings. Well, that's all well and good, but not some of the most important pieces of information that I need for my writing. So we're going to keep going on. The money from Intel will allow Braille to hire engineers and product designers so that Shabaham can concentrate on school. Now, this is really important. So the money that he's receiving from Intel is going to allow his company, remember Braille, to hire engineers and product designers so that Shabaham can concentrate on what? That's right, school. Now, I know that I might need to put a star here because in my writing, I might need to define the word engineers, and I might need to define what a product designer does. Now, if you don't know, that might be something either you go and research or that might be something that you connect to. We've heard of engineers, we've heard of designers, so a product designer, we could think of how that might help him, but we might need to do a little outside research if you're not sure. If I'm looking at the next section to this, I'm going to go ahead. Intel will not say how much money it is giving Shabaham's company. Well, it doesn't really matter how much money they're giving him. Remember, I said it's pretty free money, so that's always a good thing. It's a classic Silicon Valley story, isn't it? Said Neil Banerjee. Silicon Valley is a nickname for an area in Northern California where many high-tech companies like Apple and Google are located. Now, I'm going to tell you, in this little section, I'm not really sure there's anything that I really need. I know that high-tech companies and Apple and Google are included, but I'm not sure that I would need that for my writing. Now, you might change your mind later when we go to write our introduction and conclusion, but I know it's probably not something I need to worry about right now. Everyone else started in a garage, but Shabahams started at the kitchen table. Well, that's great. And I might underline kitchen table because that's where he started, but not everyone starts in a garage. And, maybe he did start at a kitchen table, but I'm sure there are others that have started at the kitchen table too. So, I might hold on to that little tidbit of information for an introduction or conclusion. The money from Intel also earned Shabahan a place in history. All right, so money, and I'm going to connect it to maybe a place in history. He broke the record for the world's youngest tech company owner to receive venture capital. Now, we know venture capital is something we used earlier. So, and he was the youngest tech company owner, and that's what he received was that venture capital. So I might underline received. He is 2 years younger than Nick D, and I don't know how to pronounce that last name. So if you do, great. If not, then I'm just going to stick with that D. But I know that this is giving an example. Now, some people in class were saying, oh, I might use that because he did this. However, this is an example. They're comparing Nick, okay, to our guy, which is Shabaham. Okay, so although they're comparing, that's not our personal interest in our prompt. It doesn't say compare anybody. It just says that's what the article is doing. So although this is great information, it's not necessarily important to my prompt topic, and I've got to be able to read between the lines. So it says he is 2 years younger than Nick D. It was when D received money for his startup Sumly. That's the name of his company. Yahoo reportedly later bought Sumly, a news reading app, for $30 million. Now, that's not something Shabaham did. That's something this guy, D, Alasayo maybe, did. And so we don't really need that information for our prompt. Okay? So now you're going to pause the video again, and you're going to go ahead and go to the next section. Now more people can afford a printer, and then play the video when you're done, and we'll check and make sure you have the right information underlined, or the most important information underlined. All right, good luck. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and go through this section on now more people can afford a printer. So it says organizations for the blind welcome an affordable Braille printer. They say the printer could make literature and news more available to blind people. So now we know the cause of this. So Organization for the Blind welcomed an affordable Braille printer. So organizations welcomed an affordable Braille printer. They say the printer could make literature and news more available. Okay? And we know who it's going to make it available to, so I'm not going to underline that piece because I know who it's going to become more available to. It would also increase the number of people who can read Braille. So increase the number of people who can read the Braille writing. So it's going to get it to more people. Only about 8.5% of the 60,000 blind school children in the country can read Braille, according to the American Printing House for the Blind. Now, although that's a great statistic, and it might be something that I use in my introduction and conclusion, it's not necessarily something I need for my body paragraphs. So be very careful. Even though it gives you some really good information, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I need for my body paragraphs. There is absolutely a need, said Gary Mudd, a spokesman for the Printing House for the Blind. Being blind is sometimes very expensive. Now, I'm going to underline this, and even though it's something Mr. Mudd here said, it is something that I might put as a point in my introduction. So that might be something, even though it's later in the reading article, it's something that I know. Being blind is sometimes very expensive. I can't imagine having to purchase something that costs so much money just because of something I couldn't help to be. So if I was blind, it's not that I can help to be blind. It was something that happened. So that would be, pretty good to put in my introduction. Braille printers start at about $2,000 for a person. Wow. $2,000 is how much Braille printers start at. Ooh, that's pretty expensive. They cost at least $10,000 for schools and businesses. Wow, $10,000. Can you imagine? Brogo plans to sell its printers for around $350. So they plan to sell it for around $350. We had no idea that someone could reinvent a Braille printer and bring the cost down by so much, said Mike Bell, who runs Intel's new device group. Bell said that Shebaham's printer could really help a lot of people. So, not sure that we can really use any of that for our writing, but might be. We had no idea someone could reinvent a Braille printer, so maybe that's kind of a new thinking, and bring down the cost. So maybe I'll use those pieces if I need it. So you're going to go ahead and go on to the experience of creating, and you're going to go to this last one, and then we'll come back together again and check it when you're done. All right, guys, so the last section is the experience of creating. And I'm going to go through this to help you out, and let's just see. Possibly the biggest challenge facing BrailleGo is whether it can get enough customers. Now, I know in my passage it says that I have to come up with a challenge for the future, so I'm going to definitely underline biggest challenge facing BrailleGo is whether it can get enough customers, so get enough customers. So I know that this is my problem for the future. The National Federation of the Blind estimates that fewer than 10% of blind people can read Braille. So not a lot of people, 10% of blind people can read the Braille, so only 10%. Some experts say the demand for Braille printers will drop as more advanced technology is available. Definitely some important information. So the demand, and we know that word from economics, for Braille printers will drop as more advanced technology. So I'm going to underline that is available. So will drop as more advanced technology is available. Already, smartphones are equipped with electronic Braille screens and apps that can read text out loud. So that might be a problem. Do we really need the Braille printers when we have these new apps? And I'm going to underline that. So smartphones are equipped. That means they have electronic Braille screens. I don't know. That might be something I want to go back and look and research and see what is an electronic Braille screen. And apps that can read text out loud. Now, I know in my phone I already have Siri and she can do that. So I can see this being a problem for his company. The number of potential sales are quite limited because there aren't that many people who read Braille. So not enough people. Again, we already said get enough customers. I'm not going to underline that because I feel like that's still the same information, so there's no need to repeat it. And this is coming from somebody, said Ike Presley. He is with the American Foundation for the Blind. Presley said he doesn't know if people will really need many hard copies of written material in Braille in 5 or 10 years. So somebody says they don't think they're going to need as many hard copies of written material in Braille, so in that raised dot form, in 5 or 10 years. Well, that makes sense. If we have smartphones and apps, then why do we need to have the hard copies or written materials in Braille? In 5 to 10 years, Shebaham will be in college. There's no way of knowing whether or not his company will survive. Now, I know some of you said that that in 5 to 10 years, he'll be in college and that was a problem for the future. But not necessarily. I'm not sure that's an overall problem. I feel like the biggest problem they're going to face is getting enough customers. So if he has a company at home, is this really a problem because he has people behind him already doing it? So I might say, okay, he's going to be in college, might be hard to keep up your business. So we don't know if his company will survive. However, his parents will almost certainly treasure the experience of creating it. Well, that's great that his mom and dad are so proud of it. However, not something I need for my writing. His mother tells now how Shebaham would stay up until 2 a.m. working on his invention. She would urge him to give it up and go to bed. Well, that's great, but not the most important piece of information I need. So I know that this goes back with, though, him being a diligent, right? Or being, let's say, determined. I like that word better, determined. Okay, So, this might go with a character trait. I might be able to use that in my introduction, or I might be able to use that in my conclusions. I'm going to hang on to that word. He would keep building and breaking things, and I would get so discouraged, asking, why is he wasting his time, she said. But now she tells every mom, believe in your child. So what good words, but not necessarily something we need for our writing article. So now that we've gone through all of our pieces of evidence for our article, our active reading strategies, we're going to go back now and be able to group those strategies, those active reading pieces, into our graphic organizer. Okay, so you're going to need your writing notebook out because you're going to go through and help me create a graphic organizer next. So make sure you have that prepared and ready.